You have the recorder going? Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. Notice is hereby given that this is a public hearing and regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, being held today, Thursday, January 12th, 2023, at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall, 22870 Priest Road, Sandy Oaks, Texas, where a quorum of the City Council will be present. All agenda items are subject to action. The City of Sandy Oaks will also provide a live stream video and telephonic access of the meeting through the link provided in the posted agenda. The public will be permitted to offer public comments in person, telephonically, or by video as provided by the posted agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer. A recording of the telephonic meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Texas Public Information Act upon written request. It is now 6:32. Madam Secretary, can we have a call to quorum?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Alvarado is absent this evening. Alderwoman Martinez.
I'm here.
Alderman Rapino.
Here.
Alderman Coffendacker.
Present.
Alderman Fillinger.
Here.
We have our city attorney and city secretary here as well. You have a quorum, so.
Thank you. May we all please rise for the pledge of attendance? Pledge of allegiance, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens to be heard. Persons wishing to speak may sign up with the city secretary in the time and manner as indicated above. And do we have anybody present or have signed up to speak?
We do have, since I didn't have them on the agenda, I put them on the sign up to speak, the citizens to.
Okay.
Our portion CPS, W Martinez.
Okay. So what we will do is we are going to, because of that, we're going to jump to item. There we go. Item 12C. Discuss under possible action on the park lighting project. Do we want to hang out for your colleague?
No, I
Oh,
can start.
You're here. She's here. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I'm with the local government relations team with CPS Energy, and we've got our subject matter expert here to support.
Okay, yeah, if you want to step to the front. So I need to read the,
They're just throwing other citizens.
no, there we're not.
Yes.
Do I need to read this? All this right here?
No.
Okay. Okay, well, you have the floor. If you'd like to go ahead and brief us on the lighting project in our city park.
What we gathered is after meeting with a construction manager foreman, his best suggestion is that we come off of Hickory Haven. We will be installing 4 spans of four spans of streetlight cable. And there will be 3 poles installed. There'll be 3 lights installed on those poles. And then we're going to come off of Doe Run Drive. And we're going to install 3 spans of streetlight cable there and 2 on that security lights. With a total of 5. That project will take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. It depends on any difficulties with the project. Right, installing 6 poles is quite a bit. But shouldn't take us, that long to do. I believe you read the contract. It's a 3-year contract that you'd have to keep with CPS Energy. After 3 years, if you decide to keep it, then you just continue to pay the monthly bill, right? I believe you have a copy of that.
Yes.
Okay. The lights, anytime a citizen sees that the lights aren't functioning properly, then you can report the issue to 353 HELP. Just call that number and tell them that you paid for an all-night security light, and those are expedited as fast as possible.
And that's the city reporting that or the citizen?
It could be a citizen, could be anybody in the management office.
As far as when do we expect construction to begin?
As soon as I get the approval from
Is
Bill
that-
today,
Because
the
last,
design is already completed.
okay, because the last I heard it was an environmental review.
Yeah, we passed that already.
Okay.
Now we're just waiting for the final approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are we, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Who gives that, the final approval?
We're just wanting to make sure that y'all are in agreement with the way that the project is going to be.
My only concern is I don't recall it being 5 lights. Did an adjustment have to be made?
Well, we only allow five lights.
It's policy for 5 all-night security lights. It was something recently that the utility did, but it's standard across the board. So it is 5 is the limit. We cannot exceed.
Was it 5?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, if it was 5 previously, I just don't
Mhm.
recall,
Mhm.
if it was 5.
And it should provide the appropriate lighting that you're looking for, depending on the spacing and everything. We take that into account.
Okay,
Now, another thing to factor in is the illumination, right? If you have trees that are growing into the light or as far as the street light cables and stuff, then report it and we'll certainly come out and tree trim it. We maintain the secondary street light cable.
okay,
So, I think at this point, though, the trees will need to be clear for any future installations. Once they're installed, then you can proceed to call CPS and we'll maintain the clearances.
okay.
I'm with Public Works.
Yes.
So is there, with y'all's observation, is there anything in the way right now stopping this project? Is there any trees that need to be trimmed? Is there anything to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, no, I'll need to get with the designer that made the field visit.
Okay,
But I do know that CPS is trimming right off the entrance of Hickory Haven
yes,
to install those posts. So we'll trim that first stand off because it's our secondary line and primary cable.
okay.
We don't want you to be doing anything with that.
I have a question. Which side of the street are those lights going on?
Well, it's gonna go into the park.
Understand that, but you're gonna enter into the park
Hickory Haven, off of Hickory
off
Haven
of Hickory
One
Haven
goes
to
in
the
the
right or to the left,
to the left.
One goes
right
in the island.
alongside the existing driveway.
I'm not familiar with the way it is, but I
believe it
know
was.
it's on the left.
So when you're pulling into, when you go into the park on the left-hand side, they already have an existing telephone pole there. They're going to have another pole that's going to hold the weight of the actual light, the first light that's gonna be placed, which is gonna be where the solar, the little small telephone pole is with the 2 solar panels.
Yeah.
That's where one of the light fixtures is supposed to go, is there.
Okay,
The next pole is supposed to go in the lower part of the, before you get to the playground equipment. And then that's to hold the weight of the pole that will go where the baseball field is. And when you're at the baseball field and you pull into the parking area, you've got your playground equipment, the slides and the seesaw horses and the baseball field. There should be a light fixture there shining amongst all the equipment out there, plus the baseball fields. The next light, what she's talking about Doe Run, is you're gonna be coming off of Doe Run now, because now you have 3 lights that should be coming off. There should be 3 lights there on the left coming into the park. And there should be 2 lights coming in off of Doe Run. And there will be an extra pole to hold the weight, so we don't have to do the anchors, which thank you for not doing that. And the first pole that will be installed will be the closest to the maintenance yard. So if you were to come out of the maintenance yard, there's already 2 red stakes in the ground. One is the first one coming out of the maintenance yard. The first stake is a light fixture that will be shining out towards the actual parking lot. All the picnic tables, but towards the community center, towards the restrooms, but it'll be back there by the maintenance yard. The next little tag will be the
Okay,
pole.
so-
Yes.
yeah, back to my original question.
Mhm.
As I understand what you're explaining, they are going to actually come off of the existing pole where the feed for the gate comes off of?
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I need to know. As we're planning and committing, we need to continue the thought that long-term, we're going to have to widen that street to the park. So,
Those poles will not be in the way. They'll be,
thank you.
yes,
That's what we needed.
there's no problem
That's what we
there.
needed to know.
No, there's no
Okay.
problems there.
Okay, I'm done.
Cool.
My only question is this. Clearance, how high are they gonna be? The cables,
They're 35-foot posts, so it's a little under 35 feet.
so they're gonna be way up there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
clearance won't be an issue.
Yeah, they'll be 24 inches from the top of the post.
Awesome, great.
Tom?
No.
No questions? Okay, I think that satisfies.
One more.
Oh, sure.
The price hasn't changed from our last approval.
Price has not changed.
Okay,
My understanding it's 131.58.
Correct. Anybody else?
Possibilities of expansion later on.
No.
It's limit down.
Now you can do private lighting. You can, come off of, we can actually run the secondary to the pole, right? But you can install like a meter pole or something of that effect, and then you can install however private lighting you want to do. Whether it be
What about like an
underground
outlet?
or overhead,
What
Yeah,
about
so-
it?
You'd have to get the meter and then you could do an
Yes.
outlet.
yes. metered.
So I mean, it gets us out further into the park to where if we need to run power in the future,
That's what.
we're not making a 1,000-foot run, we're making a 100-foot run or whatever it may be.
Okay.
I do have one question. What administratively do we have to do to get this thing moving?
Well, I got the approval today, so tomorrow we'll release it to construction.
Okay, so the ball's in your park now,
Yes,
right?
that's
Okay.
correct. I'll go
No
ahead and
pun
give you my
intended.
information.
Yeah.
Yes, we were just
Okay.
waiting to get the final approval.
actually, we need a motion and a vote for a final approval.
Wait, is this a different contract than what was approved back in July? There was a contract for 5
So
security
you-
lights that was
you-
approved back in
You
July.
you are correct,
Yeah.
So that's,
but we need to approve the engineering changes.
that's,
Okay.
Well, I mean, we can all sit here and shake our heads up and down, but it's not an official. I move we approve the engineering changes as presented.
I'll second it, just so we can get on the road.
Yes,
All right, I got a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Rapino. All of those in favor say aye.
all right,
Aye. All those opposed? That passes unanimously. You're clear to proceed.
How long does it take for your construction to start?
36 weeks.
To start?
Well,
Not to
not-
do the work? You said
well,
it's like this.
Say about 10 days, 2 weeks. It
Okay.
depends on the workload, right? If we can get it done fast, start faster, then we will. If we can't, then it shouldn't take more than 10 days.
No more than 10 days? Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and leave my phone
one
number.
additional question, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
In the past, we've always had to send a letter. Yeah, we do this. Do we need an additional letter?
Yes, so we
That's
do,
what I
we do
asked.
request for, just on letterhead, on your city letterhead, traditionally, it's a city manager or leadership mayor is fine. That should be sufficient, and it's just for documentation purposes.
Yeah, correct.
Not sure I understand why we need a letterhead, though, if we've already approved it and signed the contract previously.
Because we're changing it, sir.
We've always
Please,
done it that way.
please.
I got you.
Yeah,
We've got wound up around the axle with CPS procedures before that's. Got it. Madam Secretary.
We'll get it sent out.
Do you
Melissa.
need like specific phone numbers and stuff?
Not entirely, we do have pretty all that information, so I think that it should be sufficient just to say that you are going to approve the 5 all-night security lights for the city park, location, signature.
They've already been approved and please.
That's
continue.
correct.
Can we send it to the email?
Absolutely. You
Okay.
can send it to mine, and I
Okay.
can send it over to our utility coordination, just so they can
Okay.
archive that. Mhm.
Awesome. Yes, you can. Okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Mayor Martinez.
Nice to meet y'all.
Yes.
Y'all be safe.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay,
Thank you.
No, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Y'all have a safe evening.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
all right, coming back to agenda item 4. Mayor and administrator announcements and updates. So really the only updates that I want to provide is, one, I want to wish the people in attendance and the people that are online a happy new year. I think we are going to uncover a lot of good stuff this year. I think we're going to make some good progress. Also wanted to address some issues that I've physically witnessed, which was the gunshots over New Year. I do ask the public to not do that, especially in the proper city. Obviously not anywhere, because people do get hurt. So I definitely do want to convey the impactfulness of doing that, of shooting either straight in the air or in the ground. I definitely don't condone it. I don't recommend it, and we definitely don't approve it. So if you can stop that, we'd greatly appreciate it. I think for not only your safety, but for our safety as well. I also do ask for more public involvement. I see this is probably the biggest crowd that I've had in attendance, whether it be on the phone or in person, since I started, and not just as mayor, but as an alderman. So this is exciting, right, to have people in attendance, because it keeps us honest and it keeps us moving forward. And then lastly, so one of the biggest struggles that I see is when people see something and they say something, they don't tell the city, they tell next door, or they tell social media. And that's hard because we can't monitor every single channel. So I do ask, if you do have something to say and want to bring something to the table, get a hold of one of your aldermen. All the information is on the City of Sandy Oaks website. Definitely get them involved and hold them accountable, hold myself accountable to what you're seeing and what we need to make changes. As far as announcements are concerned, that is all I have for today. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, guest speakers. First, we have Ms. Kayla Burgess that is going to speak through the CD project from GrantWorks. Kayla.
Yes, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yes, you sound good. Do you
Perfect.
present your screen, or do you want to just talk through the slides, or how did you want to move forward?
I can present the screen. Just one moment while I make sure that's all pulled up. And thank you for allowing me to present this to the citizens of Sandy Oak, for everyone in attendance. I hope that your new year is going well. It sounds like it was exciting. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, it looks like I'm not able to share the screen. The screen share was disabled for participants.
Okay, yeah, there's probably a setting we're gonna have to turn on, but that's fine. If you want to just talk to the slides, the agenda item is posted and we have the backup posted as well. So if you just want to start at the beginning.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm Kayla Burgess. I'm your project manager for your Texas grant. And today we're going to be presenting the Section 3 presentation, which is a requirement for the Texas Department of Agriculture to move forward with the construction process for the grant. And I'm not sure how much information has been given out about the grant, but recently in terms of state government, Sandy Oaks was awarded a contract. The contract number is CDV 21-0020, and the contract amount is a grant award of $350,000. So the purpose for these funds is going to be to reconstruct drainage channels by regrading the ditch surface and installing 13 culverts, and this will be the Hilltop Peaks area. This grant is funded through the Community Development Block Grant, and the funds come from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. So you may have heard the acronym HUD. So those funds from HUD get disseminated through the Texas Department of Agriculture, or TDA. And then those funds are then given to cities who are starting out, need improvements, anything like that. As a condition of this funding, though, the City of Sandy Oaks must comply with Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. And that means to the greatest extent feasible, the grant recipients must direct economic opportunities, so jobs, generated by CDBG funds to low or very low income persons. So this means that Section 3 businesses will be provided the information to submit a bid or proposal for this project, and Section 3 workers will have information about any kind of available job opportunities related to this project. And if you are a Section 3 worker, if you're a Section 3 business, this would be someone who is a low-income person. If your housing is owned by Section 8, anything like that, if 75% of all of your labor hours for your business in a 3-month period are performed by Section 3 workers. And if this sounds like something that, hey, I'm a small business owner, I'm just starting out, you can always register and see if you qualify for these Section 3 opportunities on HUD's website. And there is a link for the HUD portal. Even if you just Google HUD Section 3 business registration, you'll be able to sign up. So for this project, there's really 4 main components. You have to have a grant administrative service, which is myself. I work with GrantWorks, and we work closely with TDA and the General Land Office and HUD, so that way we make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed for the cities. There has to be an engineer, because I myself should not be designing any culvert plans. So there's a qualified engineer doing that, and that is Southwest Engineers, Inc. And they were previously selected, as well as the GrantWorks Administrative Services. And those selection processes have to be done a very specific way as far as the HUD rules and then the TDA rules. The engineer is very familiar with these types of grants as well, which is always helpful because there's very strict specifications for how state funds have to be spent. Then we're also going to be needing a prime contractor, and that person will be hired in 2023 of this year. With the upcoming bidding process, we should be planning to go to bid sometime in February. And so those bid postings will be up on the HUD portal. They'll also be disseminated probably with on the city website, anything like that. We're also planning to have subcontractors, because oftentimes the prime contractors will need some subcontractors for assistance, and those will also be hired in 2023. And you may qualify for a Section 3 worker if your annual income is below the threshold for your family size. So if annually for your collective household you make $38,150 or less, you could be considered a Section 3 worker, and then you would be able to work on this project. The project, within good faith, we do reach out to all of these Section 3 businesses and making sure that all of the project information and the bid ads are given out to those businesses. If the Section 3 workers decide they don't want to participate in the project, then we still made the good faith effort, right? You could also qualify as a Section 3 worker if you're a current or recent Youth Build participant. And again, you can register at the HUD's Section 3 opportunity portal. And if you just Google HUD Section 3 portal, that will be able to pop up for you. You can also go into workintexas.com and to see, not just for this project, but any kind of project where the priority is to provide jobs to Section 3 workers, primarily lower income or smaller businesses within the surrounding area. So you're thinking, well, that's great, but how do you know who's a Section 3 business? So at the beginning of the grant, we have to submit a Section 3 map, and we have a mapping department within GrantWorks, and we work closely with the Texas Department of Agriculture to create these maps, submit them to TDA, and get them approved. So it's not like we've just come up with this map and we're giving it to TDA and they say, okay, that's fine. There's very strict measurements with all of the geography that has to go into it. And so within these slides, you would have seen just a map of Sandy Oaks and then some tracks along around Sandy Oaks. And that's going to be the target area for where we're going to run the bid ads and making sure that we connect directly with the Section 3 businesses. So you're thinking, okay, great. So let's say we do get a Section 3 business and we create jobs within the area of Sandy Oaks and the surrounding area of Sandy Oaks. Who's going to track all of those hours to make sure that the laborers are paid fairly? Because again, these are state funds, so we do have to track those hours. And ideally, it would be the city of Sandy Oaks, but then also they've hired GrantWorks as the administrator. So we have our labor department and we go through and we make sure we run all of the payrolls for all of the contractors, subcontractors, prime contractors. And we also make sure that the engineer is going on site to verify the work has been completed. So Sandy Oaks will obviously see the work is happening because y'all live there. And then we also have the engineer verifying that. We'll have statements from the contractors, the prime and the subcontractors, and we make sure that all of the laborers are paid fairly through the payroll that has been approved by the general wage decision from the Texas Department of Agriculture. The reason this is important is because, again, the Section 3 businesses and workers and contractors, they are lower income. So if something's off on their payroll, that can greatly affect how the economy is going to be around Sandy Oaks. And a lot of our personnel within the labor department at GrantWorks were previously Section 3 workers. So they greatly understand the importance of making sure the labor hours are correct. And on top of that, we have to make sure we're in compliance with TDA. For GrantWorks' sake, so that way we stay in good standing with TDA, but also for Sandy Oaks, because any future grants that y'all apply for, you're going to receive a scoring based on how successful this project was, meaning how compliant you were with the state government laws. And we're making sure that you guys are all compliant there. Okay. And so for all of these policies that I've been speaking on, the policy issuance you can look up is the Texas CDBG policy issuance 20-01. If you were to put that in Google, you can read the whole law, the whole bill. It's a lot of jargon, but if you want to read through it, you can. And then also the 24 CFR, specifically part 75, and that's the electronic code of federal regulations. So there's two parts. We have to make sure we're in compliance with the state law for TDA, and then also HUD for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And then if you need more information for this, and I do understand that the position of mayor has recently gone to Mr. Martinez or Mayor Martinez, so we'll get that switched over within the system. But for now, the civil rights officer is Mr. Charles Fillinger. And he was the person who was in the position of mayor at the time once this grant was awarded to the city of Sandy Oaks. So if you do have any kind of questions, you can always reach out to him. You can also reach out to me. The city does have my information. They have my phone number as well as my email. And however they would like to put that out, then that's great. I can always give you more information about the grant. And if there's any more technical questions as far as the engineering side, I can definitely get that information from the engineer. But currently, the Section 3 presentation has to be provided prior to going to bid for the project. And again, we'll be going to bid sometime in February, probably early to mid-February. And is there any questions so far for the Section 3 purposes of this project or anything else in general?
I have a question. How long will the bidding process be open?
The bidding process, so we're going to try to have the bidding process open for 20 days, meaning the bid ad will be ran for 20 days. It's going to be issued twice in the newspaper, and then also I'll be emailing along with the engineer directly to the Section 3 businesses that have provided their information to HUD.
Which newspapers are you using to advertise this in?
We are using, that is a great question. It's going to be the one that is distributed throughout Sandy Oaks. And let's see, I don't have the name right at the top of my head, but I can get it right quick.
Probably
Wilson County.
News.
Yes, the one, I do know it's in Wilson County, but I'm not sure if that's the name
Okay.
of the newspaper.
Once the
Yeah,
bidding
that's-
process is closed, how long will it take before a decision is made of who's actually going to come in, and how long before the work starts?
So for as far as the decision to be made, we want to try and give the city about 2 weeks time frame. The engineer does weigh in on the contractors, and there's certain guidelines that the state gives to where you can't just automatically pick the lowest bidder. You have to pick the most qualified with references. And the engineer also makes a recommendation letter. That information is going to be provided to the city, and then the decision does have to be made at a city council meeting. So my understanding is they'll meet every Thursday unless there's a holiday. And so that is being planned towards the end of February. That final schedule with the finalized dates is still being ironed out with the engineer. After that, then the contractors are notified that they have their award, and they have up to 30 days to get the permits that they're going to need. Typically, we can provide notice like, hey, you've scored really high. We cannot officially provide you the award, but if you want to start getting your permits now, that can always help speed up the process. From what I've heard, it usually takes about 20 to 30 days to get the full permits that they would be needing. Not a whole lot of permits are going to be needed for this specific project though, because it's going to be on city property for those affected areas. So there's not any needed easements or anything like that. After that, because this is going to be mainly a culvert project, we're not anticipating that there's going to be a lot of equipment delays. For other projects, they could be like sewer towers, pipelines, anything like that. Those are the projects we're seeing that they can even be 8 months out after the contract's been awarded for the contractors. We're looking to start construction maybe around May of this year. Well, we'll start this year, but we're looking around May. If we can do that sooner, that would be obviously better. And the engineers told me it may be about an 8-month-long construction process, but that's going to be on the conservative side. You know, he doesn't want to overpromise the city, but this project should be completely finalized within early next year, probably around January. And then when I say finalized, I say that for what the citizens will see. On the administrative side, it's going to wrap up probably around March or April of 2024.
How many culverts are we doing?
It's
13.
for 13 culverts.
As far as the targeted workers, the Section 3 workers, do we do any besides the newspaper, or, I mean, do we do any like grassroots or door-to-door recruiting or anything like that? How do people get signed up to be a worker?
So they can sign up to have their information posted on the HUD portal, and that's where I get those email addresses. And then the engineer is also going to be using a plan room. So the plan room will have this area. It's a virtual plan room. I'm not sure if any of y'all have done engineering or construction before, but it is an electronic plan room. And then the job ad is posted there in addition to the newspapers and then the separate direct emails. And any worker, Section 3 or not, is able to see the ad and go into the plan room, so to speak, and place a bid or say, hey, I would like to bid on this project. What information are you needing? And that's when we would then provide them the bid book, which has what the plans are supposed to look like, what's necessary in their bid, and what kind of different documents or forms that they would need to submit.
Okay.
So can we do any type of posting to let our community know?
Yes, absolutely. You can do any kind of additional posting. If y'all know of any small businesses or anything like that that would be interested in placing a bid, that's perfect. They do need to have SAM clearance, which that should be fine. Just because it's federally funded for these types of grants, the projects do have to have contractors that have received SAM clearance. And then any kind of reputable business, small or not, will understand and they'll know what SAM clearance is. It means they're eligible to receive government funding.
But essentially just direct them to workintexas.com or the HUD application, the opportunity pool, right?
Yes,
Okay.
you can also give them my information and I can get them in contact with the engineer and anything like that.
Okay. Anybody else? Good, Charles?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Kayla, thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you,
Of
ma'am.
course, thank y'all. I'll hop off, but y'all have a good evening.
All right, thank you. You too. All right,
I would like to make a little commentary, sir.
sure.
the $350,000 grant, it's not gonna run into next year.
Yeah, I don't,
It's 1,000 foot ditch.
yeah, I don't see how it's 8
You
months.
can't keep construction on site for $350,000 for 8 months.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
It's
Found that to be a
just an
pretty-
opinion.
I tried to count in rain days, snow days.
Yeah, maybe
I
that's-
couldn't get it there.
But it's summer, right? So I mean, it's typically bone dry at
Yeah.
that point, so.
I just.
I'm done.
yeah, I'm with you.
Why are we grayed out? All right.
Hmm.
Okay, so moving on to the next presenter, Ryan, can you hear us?
Oh,
Yes, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, maybe it's our TV
I
failing.
think, yeah,
Right.
it's going out.
Okay,
Am I coming through okay?
no, you sound good, man. You sound good.
Okay. Well, good evening, fellow Sandy Okians. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing good. That's a sensitive subject. Don't call us Okians. We don't all agree to it.
Okay, all
We
right.
are the Sandy Oaks folks.
Sandy Oaks folks, that
Yeah.
rhymes better anyways. Well, thank you for inviting me tonight. I promise not to take up a whole lot of your time, but I did want to give a State of the Union on the trash services for Sandy Oaks, because we have been there for exactly, well, a little over 1 year now. And it's definitely been a not a learning experience, but a growing experience as we've been able to accommodate the city and the citizens' needs. And we've had to pivot at times and change some stuff, like commercial dumpsters, for example. But we've been able to make it work. And I just wanted to give the council and Mr. Mayor some just some quick stats on the city and how the trash services have been operating. Right now in the city, there's 1,204 trash customers and 919 recycle customers. So almost 300 folks only have trash services in the city right now. Right now, according to the data from the last 2 quarters, the recycle customers are basically producing about 6.5 pounds of recycle volume per home. So there's 2 pickups a month, it's every other week service. So 3.25 pounds per home for recycle. It's very light, but so is recycling material. It's all plastic bottles, cardboard, very light material. Out of all those customers, as of right now, which is surprising because we did have some earlier when we first started Sandy Oaks, but there are 0 customers that are currently in collections right now. That doesn't mean there isn't any folks who are suspended, but the vast majority of accounts that went into collections happened in the first 6 months of the year. So when we did deliver carts to everybody in the city, there was a chunk of maybe 40-something customers who just never paid, or their accounts were never trued up. So they ended up going to collections, but we haven't had any recently, which is a really good sign that everybody who has services wants it and they're paying for it. There's 16 dumpsters, commercial dumpsters in the city, 16 different addresses. I know when we initially signed up, the plan was not to have any commercial dumpsters in the city, but through working with our operations team, Logan Hill and Rudy Gutierrez, we've been able to work with the citizens to find a way to get dumpsters safely off the right of way on their property at 16 different addresses. And the door's still open to do that, to continue, as long as we can do it safely and we're not in the city right away. Some other information, there was 142 calls into our office for missed pickups for the entire year. But out of those 142, 104 of those were from January to June. So from July 1st to the end of the year, we only got 45 missed pickups for the entire second half of the year, which is pretty good considering that we were picking up approximately 4,800 stops on just trash every month. And we ended up with just 45 total for the whole second, third, and fourth quarter of the year. So we really didn't get a whole lot of trash complaints, and a lot of them are not outs that we could verify with video and cameras. And the last couple things, Christmas, Mr. Mayor, I know we were there, but we did donate 12 bikes for the Sandy Oaks bike giveaway. That was really special. We thank everybody for allowing us to come there and do that. That was really cool to give the bikes away to those children. And last but not least, the calendar information. Mayor Martinez, I sent those calendars, I believe, via PDF over to you, but basically the 2023 calendars are being mailed out starting this week, probably on Mondays. The vast majority of them will get mailed out, but I'm also printing 300 of each day's copies, and those will all delivered to City Hall, so folks can grab a physical copy if anyone didn't get any mailed to their house. For the bulk pickups and the brush pickups this year, we just made sure on the scheduling, and we were very careful to avoid any holidays, because I think Labor Day ran into one of the brush days or bulk days last year, and we wanted to make sure that they didn't interfere with any holidays, any scheduling like that. Currently, the first bulk day is March 6th, and the second bulk day of the year will be on September 18th. And the first brush day will be June 12th. And the second one is November 13th. And those are just the days they start. Obviously, we'll continue until we finish the city, but those will be the starting days of those pickups. But that's pretty much it. Our goal for 2023 is obviously to get to 0 missed pickups, 0 complaints from citizens, and to keep expanding our relationship with the city and see if there's anything else we can do to help.
Cool. Hey, quick question on regarding your Waste Connect mobile app. Do you know the stats on how many people are signed up for that?
So I have the stats of our total aggregate customer base, but that includes all of our open market customers, including our customers up in Bernie and Kerrville and all those areas. But I can get that information for you. We'll essentially target by route the customers who have signed up for that app, and I can get you those exact numbers either directly to your email, or I can come to another council meeting and give that information out. Whatever you'd like me to do.
Well, it's more so to know, how many of our people are connected via mobile app, and then what would be the impact if we can connect the rest of them, right?
Definitely.
Because then you don't have to worry as much about a physical calendar being sent out, because maybe you get notifications that your bulk day is coming up. So I think there just needs to be more time, depending on the number of participants, spent connecting our Sandy Oaks folks with the mobile app. I think that'd be a great initiative to get them up to speed and up to date data. So
definitely, it also helps too if God forbid we get an ice storm or something, we can send out an alert, a notification to their app, which will go on their phone and give them service updates. I mean, we'll still call customers, but I know in this day and age, a lot of people ignore a lot of calls coming to their phone because it's spam and whatnot. But with the notification from the app, it just pops up. They're going to see it. They're going to read it as soon as it comes through.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions, concerns? No? Terry, you sure?
Oh, I got questions and concerns, but Ryan, I'd like to be able to speak to you privately if I could.
No problem.
If you want to hang out after the meeting, or if you'd rather, I can call you at a more convenient time for you, sir.
I'll send you his email, Terry,
Okay,
and his
please
contact
do.
info. Okay.
Would you be good with that, sir?
Of course. Yeah. Anytime.
Okay, I'll get a hold of your email from the mayor and I'll reach out to you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
All
Thank you.
right, appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much for the data. We look forward to continuing our relationship and look forward to another December bike giveaway, so hopefully that's still in the mix.
Always, every year.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Have a great day. Good evening. Okay, yeah, we can just say that's, okay. All right, for now, we're gonna skip item 6, the public hearing, and move to our agenda item 7, consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council of the city of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Where is Cat Connect? She's still out there right now. Okay. Don't- I don't see the. I don't see 7A.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody see the December 8th regular council?
Do you have
meeting?
the consent agenda by chance in your packet?
Do we have the December 8th meeting? For the,
Oh, I didn't have them ready for,
Okay,
okay, so then I make a motion to approve the consent agenda without item A, the December 8th, 2022 regular council meeting.
can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Rapino to approve the consent agenda without item 7A. Approve minutes from the December 8, 2022 regular city council meeting, and a second from Alderwoman Martinez. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Right,
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Yeah. All right, moving on to item 8, the financial report, the income and expenses for October 2022 will be reported by the city secretary, Catherine Yelton, with possible discussion interaction. Ms. Yelton?
Thank you. So first page is the general fund. We've had a beginning balance as of January 1st of $199,560.21. Checks and payments of $108,065.68. Deposits of $114,604.77, leaving an ending balance. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was December 1st, and then the ending balance is December 31st, 2022 of $206,099.30. The next page is the ARPA fund summary. The beginning balance of $803,679. Checks and payments of $13,200. Leaving a clear ending balance of $790,479. The TDA grant summary. We had a beginning balance of $62,470, a payment of $10,500, leaving an ending balance of $51,970. And then the bond fund. Opening balance of $704,460.05. We had a credit of $28.74, which was the deposit of interest. Ending balance of $704,488.79. And the rest of the pages are details of the accounts.
if there's no questions, I move we accept the financial report as presented.
Are there any questions?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger, followed by a second from Alderman Coffendaffer to accept the financial report as is. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Yelton.
Here.
Okay. Moving on to the investment report. We will receive a briefing from Alderman Rapino on quarterly investment report with possible discussion and or action. So Rapino, you have the floor.
Okay, I'll report on the quarter of 10/1/2022 through December 31st, 2022. Beginning balance was $128,896.48, and the ending amount was $129,307.21 for a period earnings of $410.73. It was a little less than we earned in the previous quarter, but there was a slight the market was a little less productive than it was in the quarter before, but we still earned a pretty good amount in the last two quarters of over $1,000. So it's not bad. It's a lot better than we've been doing in the year previous. So hopefully it will continue that way.
Awesome. And how did that training go? How did that training class go?
Oh, the training was great. I mean, I had it before, but it was pretty much the same, but I learned a few more things that I wasn't aware of before. So it taught me some stuff about my own money.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Expand your knowledge. Okay. Any questions regarding the investment report?
You need a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just asking if there's any more
Oh.
questions.
Move on.
No.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the investment
Yeah.
report for the fourth quarter.
Second. All right. So I have a motion from Alderman Rapino and a second from Alderwoman Martinez. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay. Moving on to item section 9B, discuss under possible action on resolution 2023-174, improving an investment policy, delegating responsibility and authority, and designating an investment officer. All right, so in discussion with Tom, I believe there was a new, how did they describe it, Tom, Alderman Rapino? That we needed to pass a new policy, is that correct?
Well, every year you have to reapprove
Reapprove the policy,
your
that's right.
policy, and it's not mentioned, but I have to review it. I did do that, and then I made note of that, and so the auditors will see that we review our investing policy. Well, the investment officer has to review it every year, and then we have to reapprove it and make any changes that we want. I didn't see any reason to make any changes because our only investment right now is in text pool, and there are provisions in the policy should we want to make other investments in other areas like CDs, which I think I discussed a couple of things with you that we might want to do. But we can talk about that at another time. And it makes provisions for some of the things that I think we could do if we looked at our debt service and wanted to make some short-term investments in CDs and so we could get some money back.
Try to make a little bit back.
Yeah.
Yeah, understandable.
So it's in the investment policy that we can do some things like that.
Okay. And
So there's no need to change it. So
okay. Anybody have any questions regarding the investment policy?
all we have to do is approve it.
Sure. Okay.
Make a
Um,
motion that we accept resolution number 2023-174, a resolution for the city council of the city of Sandy Oaks, Texas, approving an investment policy, delegating responsibility and authority, and providing for an effective date. Now, I do understand that authority to be for Alderman Tom Rapino with an effective date of 12 January 2023.
Have a motion from Alderman Katzenbaffer. Can I get a second?
Sure. Second.
I would mention we need somebody, we need another investment officer. And I think Grace was going to be that, I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna work with your schedule, so we may need to put that on the agenda to discuss that, about who else can step in. But I do have a motion from Alderman Kaufendaffer and a second from Alderwoman Alderwoman Martinez to accept resolution number 2023-174. Is that fine, just to state it like that? All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10. Updates and announcements from Chief Lopez with possible discussion and action. Chief, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Have nothing to discuss.
Very well. Moving along to item 10B. Presentation of monthly report by Chief Lopez with possible discussion and action.
So Mayor, you had requested last year's 2021 activity reports throughout the year, and you wanted to go over last year 2022 numbers as well, activity reports. You should have, all of them should have both reports. If you're looking at the reports from 2021 throughout that year compared to 2022, you can see the significant court defendants cases, traffic stops that are facing in the warnings as well. During that time, we didn't have, for 2021, we weren't putting down for calls for service for officers until 2022. So just for court defendants, compared to 2021, we had 1,384 court defendants compared to 777 court defendants for 2022. And cases for 2021, we had 2,304 cases. For 2022, we had 1,431. So some differences there, activity wise as well. So just being proactive with the officers as well, going out there and initiating stops for violators and things like that. For traffic stops for 2021, we had 1,161 compared to 2022, we had 1,254. For citations for 21, we had 1,160. For 2022, we had 1,447. Warnings, we had 637 for 21, and then warnings for 2022 for 623. So right about close to even for warnings as well. So. And for arrests for 2021, we had 67 arrests. For 2022, we had 72 arrests.
What would you say is the cause for the court cases to decrease
I can talk about that.
from 21 to 22? Sure.
And when we reopened, the court, we were doing twice a month. And we were backlogged for many, many months. So we got throughout 21.
A lot of those cases were from 2020.
Exactly.
We didn't have court. Okay.
I mean, if that's the case, that's the case. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because 20 pretty much the entire year was shut down, so.
I think we started back up in. It might have been like October, November of 20 that we started back up. But we were backlogged from months prior, the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So that's why I was wondering too, and then I remembered that we were doing court twice a month and with full dockets each time until we got caught up to a point where we had to actually skip a month last April,
which is the April.
yeah.
Okay. So you think, Chief, you think the 777 for court defendant in cases 1,400 is more normalized or?
Oh, well, since we had, COVID and, everything, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think, after this year, I'm
better.
expecting, that number to probably go a little bit higher or right about the same. Because things that haven't slowed down here in the city.
Yeah. Yeah, the COVID really put a damper on statistics, no matter what you're looking at. So it's gonna throw everything just a smidge off.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Got a question for you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
You're saying things aren't slowing down. That kind of brings a light concern to my heart because I'd like to see more in law enforcement and people, we shall say, behaving themselves,
A lot
not
of,
doing ignorance.
well, we're
Is it
getting
a
lot
lack of,
people that are coming through the city. So majority of our traffic stops are some residents, of course, but a lot of individuals that are not aware that we're a city and that we have our own police department. So across the highway, we're getting a lot of activity coming in because we have the Dollar General, we have the gas station, we have the shops. So, the citizens here know that we're here. We've been here for 3.5 years. A lot of the people that are coming through, passing from work and off the highway and things like that,
how can we be proactive in letting people know, hey, we are here, we are a community.
Citizens
We're gonna
are here.
enforce the law. The citizens are starting to care. I'm starting to hear that's telling me, which I'm grateful
Yeah.
for. Or do they just want to donate to our general fund?
Drive by the sign that says Sandy Oaks.
Please
And the
donate to our
sign that
general
says
fund.
30 miles an hour.
Go faster, we can use the funds, we really need it.
I use Uber and every time I use an Uber, I have to tell the guy, hey, slow down, because these guys are really busting shop. And tell all the other Uber drivers, they're tough out here. But, yeah, we,
Well, at least the city citizens are starting to figure it out. That's a very big plus in my opinion.
I think we ought to send thank you cards to everybody for volunteering to commit to our financial success.
I'm sure they're getting something from the court clerk.
We'll send them COD. They can pay their own stamp for it.
And also, I forgot to mention that we do have kind of like a split shift officer from 2 to 10 to overnights a little bit. So we have a little bit more coverage overnights to responding to late calls up till, it just varies. I'm not gonna give the times on that, what time our officers are on the street.
Oh, please don't.
However, but there's an officer over, let me put it past, over midnight. So
Excellent.
He's come by my house a couple times over midnight.
yeah.
Well, that's good news. That's good news for the citizens because that's something that they've always wanted was more coverage. So I hope they really appreciate that and I hope that we get more coverage, right?
Yes, sir. Response time as well, getting to the calls for service or whatever that may be. I think they're understanding that, if we're tied up, it's probably because we're on another call. Even the 2 to 10 and 6 to whatever time. Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays are peak times. So you have 2 officers helping each other out. And if one's at the jail or whatever, you still have another officer on patrol.
What's our average response time now, sir?
I would say right under a minute, less than that, minute and a half.
Okay, good.
When we're not on another call.
Yes.
Excellent.
And then, sorry, I apologize. So, okay, so for 2022, for December, we had 129 court defendants, 244 cases, 163 traffic stops, 170 citations, 87 warnings. Myself, I had 9 reports. Castillo had 20, and Alsmana had 30. We had 7 arrests for December. Looking down to, we had 5 calls for service for assist other agency, 2 calls for service for Burke County Fire, 2 EMS calls, 1 fire alarm call, 1 residence call, 1 residence alarm, sorry, one animal bite, one animal cruelty neglect, one animal dog abuse call for service. One call for service could be animal horse. And then we had attempts to locate, one call for service, one call for service for civil matter custody, 2 civil matters, 1 debit card abuse call for service, 3 junk vehicles citations there, and 1 COV burning dumping. I believe that was a 1 burning, and then we had 4 COVs for loose dogs. We had 8 citations for that and 1 damaged property. So that was a typo there, so my mistake. 8 citations were for loose dogs. Going to the next one. December, obviously going into the new year, we had only 2 calls for service for that. There was officers would have been tied up for for those calls, so we just took 2. 1 found runaway, 2 information reports, 2 narcotics laws, 1 road rage incident reports, 2 suspicious vehicle calls, persons, and then 1 suspicious vehicle, 1 theft, 1 theft vehicle, 2 threats, 4 welfare checks, and 5 for vehicle. And then for December, if you look at the rest for the last page, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 7 arrests, 6 residents were arrested, and with 1 non-resident. Most of these arrests were county warrants that they had to reprieve. So,
Busy month.
yes, sir.
Any questions? Madam Secretary, do I need a motion? Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to agenda item 11A. Presentation of monthly report by ACO Tucker. I believe he's not available.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
he's
going
not
to-
available. He had a family issue to take care of. So I do apologize. I don't have the report. So for the month of December, he had taken in 8 animals. Of those 8 animals, dogs, we had 4 adoptions, and we had 4 that needed to be put down. 2 were aggressive dogs. 1 was an injured dog as well that needed to be put down, and 1 pig also needed to put down. 8 citations were given for loose dogs. And for now, we have 2 adult dogs and 5 pups. We're looking to, I believe he has somebody come in either tomorrow or next week to pick up the 2 dogs, and then that would just 1 dog, and that would just leave us with one adult female and 5 of her pups. So Officer Tucker has done an amazing job going out there and trying to reduce and educate individuals about keeping their dogs contained and on leashes and things like that. It's a very tough job, and coming in here and feeding the dogs, watering the dogs, keeping cages, along with the director of public works and Catherine as well, helping out and assisting him in feeding those dogs and doing an amazing job. So.
On the 8 intake, so 4 adoptions. 2, you said 4 were put down,
Yes,
right? 2 were aggressive, 1 was injured, and then 1 was a pig, right?
yes,
Okay, so just because I know, but the pig was also injured as well.
Yes,
So
that's
just so that way
yes,
people are aware, we're not putting down pig. Just for the fun of it. The pig couldn't get up, couldn't pick up himself out of his own weight. So it was the most humane thing to do. Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 11B, discuss under possible action on Alderwoman Martinez's resignation as chair of the Animal Control Advisory Committee. Unfortunately, Alderwoman Martinez did say that she is not able to take on the position anymore. Do you have any words to add to that?
No.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. So that does mean that we are looking for someone to chair the ACAC. I will take a recommendation. I have a recommendation, but
Good.
I will see whoever else would like to recommend themselves.
Let's take it one at a time, sir,
Sure,
and
you're right,
take
you're right,
action on.
you're right. Okay. So then that said, we need a motion to go ahead and accept Alderwoman Martinez's resignation. Anybody would like to make a
I'll make a
motion?
motion that we accept Alderman Martinez
I'll
resignation.
second.
All right, and. All right, so I have a motion from Alderman Coppendaffer. And a second from Alderman Rapino to accept Alderwoman Martinez's resignation as chair of the ACAC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
All those opposed? That passes unanimously.
actually.
Actually
paper,
not.
But,
Yeah,
you can't draft them and you can't put chains on them.
yeah. Okay. So that takes care of that. So now, moving on to agenda item C. Discuss and or possible action on a nomination and appoint of chair of the Animal Control Advisory Committee. Do we have any recommendations?
Mr. Fillinger.
Mr. Fillinger has a lot on his plate already.
I would have no issue with it.
Okay. Well, if Mr. Fillinger has no issue with it, I will need a motion to get that started.
Okay, I'll move that we
Appoint.
appoint, yeah, I forgot the word, thanks. Appoint Charles Fillinger as chair of the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
Can I get a second? Okay. Well, then do we have any other suggestions? Can I make a suggestion? Don't nobody has to listen to it, but. So my suggestion. Is that we appoint Alderman Coppendaffer to the chair of the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
I wouldn't have an issue with it either.
Okay. So to do that, we would need a motion.
Sir, that puts him chair in both Animal Control Advisory Committee and the Animal Shelter Committee.
And the Animal Shelter Committee.
The one that's never met that we really,
And, you know,
yeah,
I'm just saying, the Animal Control Advisory Committee is a non-mandatory committee. The Shelter Committee is a mandatory committee, and we have what, 3.5 years of not complying with state law on the animal shelter.
So what if we just get rid of the Animal Shelter Committee?
Ma'am,
If we don't need the Animal Control Shelter, the committee, the Shelter Committee.
no, we need that. That
Yeah,
is
okay, we'll
mandated
get rid of the
by
one we
state law.
don't.
We're having an issue there, but that has neither here nor there. I'm just.
Is there-
I would like to see that committee.
Removed.
Take some action. But in, you know, splitting the responsibility between the Animal Shelter Committee and the Animal
Animal Shelter.
Control Advisory Committee,
Right.
is not going to move that committee along. But that's just my opinion.
Do you see it as a conflict of interest? If he heads up both?
I Potentially, sir, as I say, well, I'm gonna shut up now.
I really don't see it as a conflict. I don't know.
It's not strictly a conflict of interest, but if
It might be burdensome.
if that committee's not moving forward,
Then what's the point of it?
then
We don't have anyone rushing at our door to be on the committee.
No,
So-
either one.
So why don't we take a moment to review the ordinance for the, I guess it's an ordinance for the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
The ordinance is for the shelter,
It's for the shelter.
I think,
But there is
no,
an
we
order.
have an ordinance to
establishing. the committee.
establishing both committees.
Yeah.
Okay, but the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee is mandated by state law.
Sure.
Okay. If Alderman Coffindaffer is going to chair that committee, he needs to put all of his efforts into the non-functioning committee,
The mandatory
the
non-functioning. committee.
mandatory
I agree with
non-functioning
that.
committee.
That's the
We are
committee
not
we
in
need to
compliance
establish.
with state law.
Right.
And that's where those efforts need to go.
Agreed.
So why don't,
Just saying.
so why don't we postpone, put the ordinance on the agenda to be reviewed for the next meeting?
Which ordinance, shelter or?
I think the ACAC and both, and the shelter ordinance on the agenda to be reviewed.
Only if you assign homework and instruct everybody to review both.
Give you one other alternative.
And
Sir,
Well, we know that the Control Advisory Committee, the Animal Control Advisory Committee,
yes,
that's not the one that's mandatory, correct?
That is
that is
correct.
not mandatory.
Okay. And that's the one that we have that's most active.
Sort of,
To
kind
an
of.
intent,
Yeah.
to a degree.
Compared to what are non-active
Sure.
animal shelter.
the only reason it's active
My-
is because somebody.
Be serious adults about it.
My point being is I've had the
It
privilege.
has done nothing.
Right.
We bandied about some ideas, but the ordinance,
people to go.
the ordinance directs the Animal Care Advisory Committee to seek volunteers, seek funding, develop an animal control policy, and advise the council on those matters. That has not happened since the committee was formed. They come in and say, yeah, we had a meeting and we're gonna have another one, but as far as advising council with policy, funding opportunities, or volunteerism, it hasn't happened. But I'm just saying, we need to step up our game or quit playing.
My thought was to combine the two. Because we do have participation in one, and for those people that do attend, to have them have an input on the other as well.
Well, we have participation in one because we
It's-
don't have the other at all. so-
It's
Two people's not a lot of participation.
Right.
it's a different target. To be honest with you, it's a different target.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's a harder conversation, I agree.
the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee has a different set of duties than the Animal Care or Animal Control Advisory Committee. And they're not necessarily,
But I can see where they're hand in hand.
Yeah, I see
But
where
then you
they
can
have.
see where the committee would try to
Stu,
the committee would try to run the shelter then, and then you might as well. There's a conflict of interest when it comes, in my opinion.
I don't think there's a conflict.
I don't see it as conflict.
Together, I think.
Precisely, because these two groups, if there was multiple people in both groups have a heavy input, one on animal control, and then you have the shelter committee going, well,
Okay,
this
I'd
is where
like to
we're
make
at.
a motion.
So it's just a suggestion, because you did ask for the mayor to address this at another meeting.
I'd like to
So
make a
that's my
motion
suggestion.
that we postpone this agenda item. And that I make a motion that we postpone the agenda item, and I advise the council members to review both ordinances prior to our next
Next meeting,
council meeting.
I'll second that. And would that fall, any, no, never mind, I'll keep my 2 cents in my head until we review these ordinances.
okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Rapino to postpone agenda item 12C and make homework available to our aldermen to review both the ACAC ordinance and the animal shelter ordinance.
Could we get those numbers so we will not have to dig?
Item 11C, yes, our city secretary will provide those to you, or at least provide you the hyperlinks to your email.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so all in favor of those, say aye.
I,
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. All right, moving along. Parks and Recreation, item 12A, updates and announcements from the Park Advisory Committee Chair Alderman Rapino with possible discussion and or action.
okay, the next meeting will be on February 7th. The Park Committee is discussing a lot of different subjects. I want to congratulate the Park Committee and particularly the staff at the community center who worked hard in December doing the Christmas festivities and the angel tree, and they gave out a lot of presents. They mainly used funds that were donated by people in the community and vendors that chipped in. I congratulate you since you're sitting here, most of you anyhow. So, and we are discussing things like the car show that Alderman Coppenduffer is working on, and things like that. And we did see the lighting people here talking today, and that looks like it's on the road to starting.
Good path.
So, and so our next meeting, as I said, will be February 7th. So that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Yeah, so if I can add in, I had a great time at the meeting Mr. and Mrs. Claus. My kids were amazed that they knew my name. So that actually sealed the deal for them that this is not a joke. We better start acting right. So thank you for contributing to their good behavior until Christmas. That has now passed and they're back to their normal selves. But yeah, as Tom said, you know, the lighting project's coming along. I think we're doing a lot of good things. I think we have a lot of good things planned in the future. Myself and Alderman Coffindaffer are going to do some recognizance in what's the town called?
It's up by Tyler, Texas, up by there next weekend.
Yeah, so they're putting on a small car show, this same company in a small town, like similar to ours. And so we're going to go check it out and see how that plays out. But any questions about the parks?
Are you gonna take a city vehicle because it's business?
It is official business, but probably not. I like my F-250 a little too much, so. And the Taurus is very small. Anybody else? Any questions?
Is it the Duluth?
Not a dually.
Okay.
All right, moving on to agenda item 12B. Discuss under possible action on ordinance number 2023-218. Defining the terms of use of city parks and repealing ordinance number 2022-199. So. What you have in front of you is the ordinance discussing the hours of operation for the park. Currently, as it exists, park hours are sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week, unless otherwise posted. What I would like to see, similar to every other park that I've been to as of recent, whether that be in south of us or north of us, is that there is there's limited access after dawn, right? So call it 10 o'clock at night. Kind of the purpose of the ordinance is to not prevent people from going in, because that's definitely not the case. We encourage all our citizens to go into the park. But I've been told before that people going into the park late at night just seems rather suspicious. And I don't want to generalize everybody, because I know that's not always the case. But we've also received some damage to a lot of our public assets. And time after time, it just happens and it happens and it happens. And it's disheartening because it's our park. It's disheartening because it's our funds. And it's disheartening because, you know, when I take my kids over there, I don't want them to see that, oh, I can't use the restroom bed because it's closed, because it's broken. Or I can't, you know, they got to see explicit images on the playground, because that's not fair to them, right? Those are things that I try to keep them safe from, and I can't control that on a park bench or on a park slide or whatever it may be. So again, the purpose of the revamp of the ordinance is to basically reduce the hours down from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to still 7 days a week, but essentially from dusk till dawn. So when the sun comes up and the sun goes down,
From dawn till dusk.
dawn till dusk. I'm referencing a 90s movie.
I think we need to discuss and possibly amend section 13. Because the park contains our community center. And one, the community center is available to rent for parties.
Mhm.
And I think I'm going to ask our expert, what hours did we establish for parties?
No parties run after midnight for the same reason,
Okay.
because of the loud music and the.
So we have in the past approved party hours as no later than midnight. So, and it, you know, it's going to be hard to rent a party event and say, go home at dark. So I think we need to address that here. And also, we long-term would like to have some evening activities for families, children, and seniors. I mean, we're not going to be dancing, but we can play checkers or bingo.
You can
So,
dance.
I think we need to establish
We can carve something out for the community center.
exceptions and kind of define what is posted. Because we normally announce events in the park on Nextdoor and Facebook. We don't put a lot of signage out. So is listing an event on Nextdoor and Facebook posting? Or are we gonna stick a sign out in front of them? Yeah, I'm just saying. If we're gonna use, you know, unless otherwise posted, we need to define what posted is.
Okay,
Uh. So. You know,
yeah, so I mean, I think to that note, right, I mean. Currently, the way it reads is park hours are sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week unless otherwise posted. I believe it should read. With the exception to rentals of the community center. You know,
Rental to the exception of rentals and other
Special events.
festivities, or
Special
special
events, yeah.
events, yeah.
I'd like to have section 2 taken out.
hold on, let's stay on track. Now I gotta go look.
I've never gone to agree with that,
Probably
sir.
no.
Oh, I know.
No. No.
Come on.
Do that.
All right,
I have a reason for what I say.
And
Go
I
ahead
have,
with what you're
and
doing.
I have a reason to oppose it, sir.
I agree.
No, let's not get into that. Let's move on.
no, but that's a fair point because we could talk to that. We could at least bring it up, because if we are addressing the ordinance.
And we
um,
can discuss it.
Yeah. So, but right now, let's talk to the hours of operation, right? So. Again, hours are sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week unless otherwise posted. With the exception of special events or community center rentals. Right? Would that be fair?
Yes.
And that could be posted on a sign. And if you don't know why you're there past midnight, then that's
That could be an issue.
you have a question. Yes, sir.
How many late events have this, that the community center has had in the last year to go past midnight?
Well, so the
No,
Christmas
no,
thing,
None of them have ever gone back.
right?
But
Right.
we'll have it in, just
Yeah.
cover it in the future.
I mean, the Christmas thing, I think y'all did until 8 o'clock, right? More or less.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, call it 10 o'clock is probably the latest that any community center event has gone through.
The problem right now is that, it's already dark at 6 o'clock. So we do, like, the Santa event, we were there till probably 10, like,
Yeah.
cleaning up and.
I don't think that'll be an issue when we get a gate that can be closed and they can still do what needs to be done in the center.
Yeah, because it would have photo cells or at least
It has
Right.
an exit loop.
Right, it has the loop.
Anybody can get out at any time.
My recommendation is 10 o'clock. Most parks, that looked at other cities, you're looking at 10 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's what my recommendation. I believe that's reasonable at 10 o'clock. Unless a specific party or quinceañera or something, there's exceptions to that.
Yeah.
But 10 o'clock, park needs to close at 10 o'clock.
well, then I think the hours should read, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. That would be my suggestion. And the reason why I say that is because the two parks that I take my kids to close at 11 p.m. And I have no idea why I would be there that late.
Uh,
I think our situations are like.
I'm good with dawn because
And we leave,
we have walkers out.
Yes.
Right after dawn.
Yeah, that's true.
Particularly. in the
especially when it's hot.
summertime.
Yep.
I'm good with dawn, but sunset is kind of,
Killing it.
that's 1940s style.
Yeah, like sunset right now is 5:56 today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fair. No, I get it. I get it.
So,
I agree with the chief.
I would be good with park hours at sunrise to 7 days a week.
And I mean, I think we
Yeah.
limit the community center attention.
Except
Okay,
for city sponsored special events.
okay.
Sounds good.
City sponsors.
Right. Sounds good.
Because if we rent the pavilion till midnight, that's a city sponsored event.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
So I move that we amend section 13 to read park hours are sunrise to 10 PM, 7 days a week. Except for city-sponsored events.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay, so let me recap. So I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Coppendaffer to strike park hours are sunrise to sunset. To instead, park hours are sunrise to 10 PM, 7 days a week, except for city-sponsored special events. Does that sound correct? I can, so all of those in favor say aye.
Right?
All
Is
those
this on
opposed.
the entire motion or is
This
on
is
that one?
specifically for hours
Section
13, section 13. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Thank you. Okay. Now I know Alderman Coppendamper wanted to talk through section 2, and I understand where he's coming from. Because of the car show that's coming up in the
Yep.
summer.
See, and because of the verbiage you chose. Now, do I believe it should be out of the park and absent? Absolutely. But not continuously, not always, because I also believe there are times when adults do behave and enjoy adult beverages. But as I look through here, the one legal drug that is not authorized in our park is alcohol. However, if somebody's down there chewing on some CBD gummy bears that are illegal in the state of Texas, light up a cigarette that they shouldn't because it's got a little green wacky weed in it. Even though there's a state law against it, city doesn't mind. See, that's the only thing we put illegal out there.
No,
But hear me out.
stop,
No,
stop.
it's my turn. Hear me out anyway. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you holding.
Right.
I do
State
agree
laws that are.
that there are times that adults do want to drink a beer when they're sitting with their family having a barbecue and a picnic out there. Me personally, I like to see it where there was absolutely no glass in that city park whatsoever. None, not even brought in.
But you can amend that in this ordinance if you like.
Yes, sir, thank you, but now you're starting to hear me speak. I'm asking that, yes, we do allow people to have their adult beverages if they choose. Now, why is it I don't see a problem with this? We actually have law enforcement in this city. We have enough people in the community to go, look, you're not right to drive. No, I am not going to give you another beer. I mean, is that the reason why it was that when we had our night out, it was not at the city park? Because there were adult beverages there. But we have an ordinance saying no adult beverages. To be exact, I'm talking about alcohol in the city park. But yet at the National Night Out that we recently enjoyed, beer was being passed around happily. So are we changing our venue so that way we don't have to change a rule?
That was not formal. The alcohol was not formal. That was,
Okay, well, I'm just saying it was there.
but it wasn't illegal to do it.
Exactly.
I
But
see.
now if we would have had that same National Night Out at the city park, those not formal alcoholic beverages that people brought in were subject to arrest
Or fine.
or to a fine or a citation. So my point being, what is the purpose of there shall be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the park at any time? Because now we're talking 1920 to 1933.
Prohibition.
Can I ask an expert opinion, sir?
Go ahead, I've got just as much law enforcement as the chief does.
What percentage of domestic violence and public disturbances involve alcohol?
That's pretty high.
And that's my point.
Okay,
Okay, I don't want to take my grandchildren to the park and let them watch a drunk abuse his kids and beat on his wife. I don't even want the possibility. But that's just me. And
your argument doesn't hold water where I sit, and I'll tell you why. That is the same argument that was started prior to 1920 By 1920, Congress decided that it was a good argument. And with the fight, yes, because to help the morality of the country, We
I'm not
created
talking about
prohibition.
morality, sir. I'm talking about crimes.
so am I, because they called it a moral crime back in 20 up until 33, prohibition for 13 years.
Fighting because you're drunk is a moral crime?
No,
No,
but
it's
people
just a
are more
crime.
adults today. At one time, people got away with DUIs because, well, I understand you had your wreck because you were drunk. Today's society doesn't see it that way. If you drink, you drive, you're a drunk driver, you have an accident, you're responsible for your actions. Now, to say that somebody's going to be down at the public park drunk, that is quite the stretch. To say they would be down there abusing their family members, you're assuming men. But to say that a person would abuse their spouse or their children because they're in the public park drunk, I find that hard to believe.
Sir,
That's me personally.
So can,
I've heard your argument, sir, and I'd like you to offer an amendment.
well, so can we look at it in the sense of the same way we did the hours, with the exception to a city-sponsored event? That opens it up to where we control when it happens. The city controls if it's a car show, if it's a
Barbecue.
national
cook-off
night
for the
out,
community.
it's a barbecue cook-off, it's,
Sir,
yeah, that's fine.
I know that for events, there needs to be an officer.
Right.
Right? For there to be alcohol,
Correct.
like when we rent out the community center, I always tell them that in the back, it says, if there is gonna be alcohol, they need to hire their own
Security.
security.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's just a suggestion, that if it's for the car show, is there gonna be security there?
Yes, ma'am. It's not just for the car show, but eventually, now I'm talking long-term, my apology for moving out of the scope. Eventually, we'd like to see this city to where it was known for more events, more public openness. And yes, that is what I am pushing for, Mayor Martinez, Alderman Fellinger. I'm not saying take it totally out. But yes, I am pushing for for a change in the verbiage to where it would be, and I wrote it down, dadgummit. Except under city-sponsored events. In other words, where somebody comes to the city to say, this is what we want to do. Will the city bless off on us having alcohol at this event? So it's not a case of an open door where drunk Terry here can just stagger into the park and act a fool.
Right.
Because I want to.
Right. You're not bringing your ice chest to the
Exactly.
park. You're buying it from an event that's happening where there's TABC licensed,
Where people are licensed, where
bartenders,
we're doing it
where
correctly.
there's security, posted security.
and there is security.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on any time that there's alcohol, there has,
I
there's
would like to
security.
hear the offered amendment, sir.
The offered amendment that I would have would be there shall be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the city park unless there is a city-sponsored event with the city permits requesting alcohol to be there and approved. Now, the approval authority for that, I would say, would be the city council.
No,
Mm.
no, that's because,
Or I'm trying to see,
no, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
if it's because if it's just a,
That puts responsibility on the city.
yeah, no, I mean, if it's a city-sponsored event and
Yeah.
it's a known event, it's approved, right? You know, you
Okay.
come and you apply for it,
Yeah,
you pay your dues, you know that you gotta have security, you know that you gotta have XYZ.
Okay.
TABC licensed bartenders, and I mean, then now we gotta figure out, that
except for
permit is.
city-sponsored events, then is how I would leave it.
yeah,
city sponsored event.
And then that does not sound like prohibition going. down there.
Security too.
okay. So, that being said. The amendment to section 2 says there shall be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the park at any time unless there is a city-sponsored event. Did I get that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Strike it unless
Strike.
and insert except.
Except.
Yeah.
City sponsored events.
Do you have an issue with changing sponsored to approved? In other words, if
I
a,
think that would probably be
Yeah,
even
that's-
better.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
approved
better.
would be-
I agree.
That's
approved
why
would be
we
much better.
pay you them big bucks, man. That would be. the
Thank you for
correct
being here tonight.
Yeah. Okay, so again, it should read, there should be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the park except if there is a city-approved event.
And that still leaves it open for our people that use the community center.
Yep.
That have their approved event, not sponsored, to where if they choose to have those beverages, they can.
Still with the
It's still good to
Still
go.
a secure.
Okay, so would you restate that as we read the amendments or?
There shall be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the city park at any time, except
if there is a city approved event.
if there is a city approved event.
Okay. I second that motion.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Pappendaffer. And a second. Yeah, and a second from Alderman Fillinger. To change section 2 alcoholic beverages. From there should be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the park at any time. To there shall be no alcoholic beverages permitted in the city park. Except at any time except at a city approved event. Okay. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay. Well, we've addressed alcohol. We've addressed the hours.
Any further discussion?
I just have a minor change to the last recital. It needs to say by repealing ordinance 2022, I think, 22 dropped off when I redlined it.
Oh, right there.
So that was just.
That should be 2022.
Clerical change.
Okay. Okay, so if no further discussion. With the approved changes. I need a motion.
But would this
Okay.
fall under the two readings?
If it's a health and safety, it wouldn't. If y'all,
Is this health
if
and
it's open
safety?
to interpretation, y'all can make a motion to waive the reading or bring it back for a second reading and post it on the website. But
I know that we can do that, yeah. So,
But generally, because it does have rules and regulations of the park, I think it is a health and safety.
okay, so we'll go forward then. So I'll make a motion that we approve with the changes, the
Section 13 and section 2.
I can just say, do we have to name the
As
section
amended.
as amended? Yeah. What's the name? Ordinance number 2023-218. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. I believe,
Yeah.
okay.
I second the motion to adopt ordinance number 2023-28. Yes. 218
Yes,
as amended.
Okay. So I have a motion from Alderman Rapino and a motion from Alderman Fillinger to approve ordinance number 2023-218 as amended. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's all I get from.
All those opposed? Nobody opposed, right?
No.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. It was a great conversation, great dialogue.
I think there is a contract with the city to use the park and a waiver. If not, council may need to give authority to change that for the alcohol issue now, requiring.
Well, she said on the rental of the facility, it has already in there the inclusion of alcohol.
Okay, but of the park itself, if there's another event at the park.
Okay, so we need
Let's let the Parks Committee work on a contract for
Okay.
uh
I think we worked on it.
other events outside of the community center. We'll come back next month with the recommendation.
fair enough. All right, moving on.
I hate to do this, but I need a 10-minute recess.
Okay,
Please.
how do we, I forgot how to do
We
that.
stand in recess.
We just-
Okay, we stand at recess at 8:21 PM. We will return back in 10 minutes. At 8:31. Okay, it is now 8:31 PM. We are going to continue the council meeting. I do want to take a moment to actually jump back to an original line item in the beginning. Item 6A. So this is a public hearing for persons wishing to speak. May sign up with the city secretary in the time and manner as indicated above. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing at 8:32 PM. Okay, and if no one signed up, well, I'll just, all right, so at this time, the public hearing is to discuss and or possible action rules on governing plats and subject subdivisions within the city. This time, we have not had anybody signed up to discuss the ordinance. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, adopting a schedule of fees to be paid to the city of Sandy Oaks at the time of submitting a plat or plan for development. So because nobody signed up to speak, we will close the public hearing at now 8:33 PM. Alderman and Alderwoman, do you have any questions regarding the ordinance presented in front of you? So just as a clerical, we've been recently receiving some plats, replats, whatever you want to call them, basically at our cost. We are to provide the replats to the P&Z Commission as well as to the city engineer. When the city engineer does have time to review them, they do charge us a fee. The fees are listed in the ordinance. And so what this is to enable is to allow us to recuperate these funds that are being charged to us so that we are not at a loss every time a citizen wants to replat a piece of property, piece of parcel.
So whenever somebody's wanting to subdivide their property or something of that nature,
Correct. We would be charged by our city engineer to review it and approve it. And therefore, in this case, we would just pass the cost along, with the exception of a 5% fee on the credit card transaction if they chose to use a credit card.
so like we have property that's not owned yet by anybody. If somebody wanted to come in and build a house on that property, how does this affect that individual?
So if they own the property, they would submit a replat of how they wanted to divide it or
Well, I mean, they just want the property the way it sits,
to buy it, just to buy it. Or
just to buy it the way it sits and build a house on it.
I mean,
They don't need
Yeah.
a plat. The plat's really just that they subdivide a property.
It's already-
So-
It's only for subdividing.
subdivision.
Okay, understand that.
But two tracks, one plot for one property divided into two tracks is a
Right.
subdivided property, so. that's-
Okay,
if you were to split yours in a sense, right? That's what there would be a replot for.
I did that to my place. So I had two lots. I platted it. into
As one, yeah.
But that's before it was a city.
Smart move.
Good time.
Well, no, there's reason. If you own two lots. And,
One is eligible for exemptions.
one is eligible for exemptions, the other is not.
Right.
Now, that really doesn't affect most of us, but a lot of veterans, it will affect their tax. Disabled veterans have different tax acceptance schedule. So
And homesteading.
But
Yeah.
if you buy a lot and build a home on a lot, you're not gonna plat the lot. But that's, neither here nor there. Addressing the ordinance, it makes good sense. But the engineer review and that it doesn't cost us money to have him view. So. Yeah, and these numbers come from our
They
engineer.
come directly from Success Engineering.
Okay.
I think the one thing that we did discuss with their city attorney is that this ordinance is amendable, so should they redesign their fee schedule, we can amend this ordinance to.
All laws are malleable, so.
Just wanted to throw it out there.
Okay. And is this that application deadline I'm looking at part of this ordinance?
That is.
It's not part of the.
Oh,
ordinance.
gotcha.
Just wanted to point out administrative fees is highlighted. If there's anything that the city itself incurs that's outside the engineer, I left it open for that, for example. Time that Catherine or any other staff would take into review or anything they need to do in accepting the plat. Those types of fees, copy costs, and things like that.
What would be the proper verbiage for that?
For the administrative fees,
Yes, ma'am.
it could just be a blanket administrative filing fee. And then what that cost generally would be if it's hours that city staff is using to take away from other work, it could be that fee. And that would vary. It really depends on what the city is.
Yeah. Can we,
I'm personally fine without it
Okay.
in a sense of this is our jobs, right? Not my job, obviously.
yeah.
I think without the administrative fees, what we're seeing is correct and is what we need to have personally. Because yeah, this is the higher cost. This is where the money's being spent when somebody wants to split their property,
Well, if
and it's falling on us as a city to pay for it.
when the city gets to the points that we have a permitting office and we have an employee that actually reviews house plans and such like that, then yeah, administrative fees would apply, but our administrative cost for a replat is Catherine writes a P&Z agenda or a council agenda, so I don't think it. For these services, I don't think it's necessary to add an administrative fee. My thought.
Okay. I tend to agree that administrative fees are not necessary at this time.
Okay.
So with that said, is there any other further discussion, questions?
What is this ordinance number gonna be?
Yeah, that was what I was looking for. You have that?
Whatever is the next one after.
Well, that's
I'm sorry, Ms.
I wasn't
Catherine, I'm not good at
prepared for
keeping up.
I think 219.
219, 219.
213, you say?
219.
219. I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance number,
Adopts the
thank you, adopt ordinance number 2023-219. An ordinance of the city council of the city of Sandy Oaks, Texas, adopting a schedule of fees to be paid to the city of Sandy Oaks at the time of submitting a plat or plan for development.
I'll second.
Okay, so this is a summary. I have a motion from Alderman Coppendaffer and a second from Alderman Rapino to adopt ordinance number 2023-219. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Okay. And is that,
It's under.
it's still part of it? Okay. All right, the next item within 6 public hearing persons, with the rules governing plats and subdivisions is the City of Sandy Oaks 2023 plat application deadlines and meeting dates. So here's just it's a standard schedule that the city attorneys developed to kind of establish a timeline of when we receive a plat, and when it can be executed, and the deadlines to actually review it by either city council or the P and Z. And then some alternate dates have been presented as well. The reads plat applications may be submitted no more than 1 week prior to the plat submittal filing date and must be received complete by 2 p.m. on the plat submittal filing date to be considered for the corresponding planning and zoning and city council meeting dates. You have that, Charles?
Yes, sir. And I'm ready to make a motion.
All right. Well,
I move that we adopt the draft 2023 plat application deadlines and meeting fee as a city policy as written.
I'll second.
okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Rapino to accept the 2023 plat application deadlines and meeting dates as described. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. All right. Going back to our order. Oh, it is now 8:43 and the public hearing is closed, right? And the public hearing is closed. All right, moving on to the next item, 14A. We received, discussed under possible, what's that?
13.
Did I miss 13?
13D, sir.
12. Oh, I see.
12D, yeah.
Yeah, we have a 12D.
Okay, yep, I see it now. All right, so moving on to agenda item 12, Parks and Recreation D, discuss under possible action on quotes received for an automatic gate at the city park. So because we have now amended our ordinance to close the gate at 10 p.m. and open at 8 a.m.
No, sir, we agreed to close the park at
Close the park
10 p.m.
at 10 p.m.
with exceptions.
With the exceptions.
At dawn.
Okay,
Parks open, gates closed.
so with that said, we are presenting now the idea of actually getting an operational gate. Priscilla, do you want to go ahead and speak to what you were able to determine?
I can do that. We, last, council, we had 3 quotes. And, Terry Coppendaffer had some questions that I was not able to answer for one of the quotes. So that, company is not, with us. There's some things that you had asked Terry that it's not gonna work. So these 2 companies right here, Charles Fillinger's, Alderman Fillinger is aware of Quality Fencing. That's the company we use to put the fence, gate opener at City Hall here. And, great, it operates, it's good, but afterwards, their customer service was not the greatest. They're very short-staffed and I've had some run-ins with them as far as their customer service goes and getting us some remotes and other things like that. The Traco, is a company that, did our, what is the wall called, our bulletproof window, our Kevlar wall for the lobby. And Traco was also approved to do our second bulletproof window for the police department for court clerk.
They also built one.
They also built our front deck out here that we get to all share our handicap ramp and entrance to our building. On these two companies here, I've expressed to them what we would like to have is to have a sensor. So if somebody is in the gate, once the gate does close, I'd like to have it set on a timer, not have it remote. But also if somebody was in the park after hours, there would be some sort of a sensor to allow a vehicle to leave the park. Weight sensor, there's some sort of a filter.
Loop.
So-
Security. loop.
Yeah. Security loop so that they can exit the park. A person, not so much. So,
Okay, so these are the two quotes. If you notice, the first one is dated November 22nd. I believe the discussion was had with Quality Fence that they still approve this vote as it stands.
both, yes, David is correct. And we also are going to utilize the existing gate that is there now. There is nothing wrong with that gate, except for the wheels need to be redone. The track needs to be redone. So minor things, but the gate itself, there's nothing wrong with it. So we are going to utilize.
How wide is that gate?
Good question. That gate's probably, well,
The single car width.
12 feet long. Probably longer than that. I'd say it's probably about 12, if not.
Okay, that brings me to another question. We have an operational gate down there.
Mhm,
We close that gate, let's say it's set up at 2200.
mhm.
We have vandals in there in the property. How do our officers get through that gate quickly? If need be?
There's an SOS on there on both of them. They're both going to come equipped with SOS for siren to open that gate.
Okay, my next question is, what are we gonna do when it's brought to our attention that our road going in, the main road that everybody uses, is too narrow and they want us to widen that road, and we have a 12-foot gate? What would it cost to upgrade to a 20-foot gate at that point?
You just changed everything right there by just making that comment, because there's a brick wall on both sides of that entrance, so that means you have to move a brick wall.
Well, that's what I
There's
have to ask.
bollards that are cemented in the grounds, but that means that you have to move all three of those bollards that are next to that cement wall.
Mhm.
So that's a very big expense.
It's a bigger project.
If you want to expand the road past the gate, then we can discuss that.
I'm talking about
But
inside the city.
Expanding that gate, you don't have very many options there to expand that gate, because that's somebody. The reason I say that is because there is a huge cement wall on one side and a huge cement wall on the other side. The only option you have is to move that cement, literally take it down and widen that. But there's a telephone pole on the other side of that.
Well, earlier today, when CPS was here, the conversation came up about widening the road in the city park.
Inside the park, not.
That's what I'm talking,
Not at the gate. That's
but not at the gates.
not at the gate. That is not happening.
At least with this bit.
Well, I'm just saying, even if you wanted to expand it,
You'd have to move poles, you'd have to knock down trees.
there's so much involved in just expanding that to make that a wider
Who owns them?
situation. You're just gonna have to wait your turn, and if you wanna widen it, it's wide over here on the outside of the gate. All you would have to do is widen it on the inside of the gate, once you get inside of it.
There's no point in widening
Right.
inside if you're not gonna widen the gate area.
Right.
You don't have this continuous
Who
traffic.
owns the concrete brick walls you were telling me about?
That belongs to the city. That is the city's. We can knock that wall down if we wanted to. We can remove those bollards, but
There's
What's
no
the
real
sense in
reason to do that now.
there's no sense in doing all of that. It's only, you don't have that kind of traffic. If you're gonna widen anything, once you make entry into the park, you can widen the road to the left. And that's where those telephone poles are gonna go. You can widen it a little to the right. You can widen both of it to the left or to the right. If you're exiting the park, you can widen the road where two cars could pass each other once you make entry into the gate.
Okay, but that's actually, that's
Okay.
a little more off topic.
Thank you.
But
But it's applicable.
it is applicable, yes.
And I would like to address, and thank you for the work you put into this, but we're still gonna have vandal problems. This gate is not going to eliminate that.
Nothing will.
And but I would rather see money spent on, number one, we're gonna have improved lighting out there. I would rather see money spent on much better security cameras and a remodel of the public restrooms, replacing the porcelain fixtures with basically prison fixtures. Heavy duty stainless steel, built-in sink, no porcelain, no toilet seats.
Who's gonna close the park at 10 o'clock?
Well, that's,
Let's ask the expert again. Vandalized toilet sink there, other than stuffing it full of paper. Thank you. I'm just saying,
Is there a better way we can
if
spend
the
them?
reason for the gate
When the $12,000.
is to address vandalism, I think dollars might be better spent with better security cameras and vandal resistant facilities, because the gate's not gonna address vandalism at all.
Then you might as well keep the gate, the park open 24/7. Who's gonna close the gate at 10 o'clock at night?
Ma'am? Again, a gate will stop a vehicle from entering,
I'm just-
but it's not gonna stop vandals from entering. The gate was locked when
It'll stop the teenagers from
the
going down. and
gate
having
was
sex in the
locked when the
park.
current community center was almost destroyed.
I'm just saying.
The
I mean,
gate
leave it open
was
at
locked
24/7.
when the old security trailer down there was vandalized. The gate has been locked over my time here. For the majority of the time before we became a city, the gate was locked and vandalism took place. So
I'll change the park hours.
but to that point, right? The park has been vandalized when the gates open too, so I mean. What's the point, right? So we're not gonna win in either direction. So why not add as many deterrents as possible?
Well, I'm saying invest the money in vandal resistant equipment, better lighting, better security cameras.
Before we do it,
Just my thought. And I'm not.
I already checked into security cameras for the park, rather than have game cameras or anything of that nature out there. And we have an IT guy that works for the city. And I've asked numerous times for better cameras. Further,
Why you're shaking your head, what does that mean?
because it's a no.
What's a no?
What's
We can't get cameras all the way out there. We can't get cameras to light up the parking lot or the baseball field or the basketball fields or anything of that nature.
And we have a cell tower down there.
The internet,
We have wireless cameras today that reach over 300 feet. That are wireless, work on Bluetooth, doesn't require cell towers. They run about $250 a piece.
I have that on my phone. The
Okay,
city approved it.
I understand. Hear me out. What I'm telling you about is for somebody to say, no, that's not possible. With today's technology where it's at, I can't buy into it. But right now, what we're looking at is these gates. That would be another conversation as far as security
Yeah.
cameras go.
So let's get back to the gates.
The gate is gonna minimize the traffic from people going in after hours, okay? I mean, every park in the city of San Antonio has gates or closures, things like that. You're
Correct.
never gonna get rid of it completely. It's just to minimize it. You're never gonna get rid of it.
Correct.
But it's to minimize it, deter it as much as possible, more than what it had there.
My opinion is that the gate would be a deterrent to people that can walk easily in and get clear access to the restrooms, to the community center, to anything that's right there. It would act as a deterrent because now they got to go down to Starbucks. Is that correct?
Starbucks and Doe Run.
Doe Run. They'd have to go to Doe Run, walk 100 yards across the park to come and damage our facilities. Whereas right now, they can drive up or walk up on Hickory Haven and go straight to any of our facilities.
Are we gonna lock the restroom doors too at 10 o'clock? Why not?
Yeah.
If nobody's gonna be in the park.
Who's gonna do that?
Officers can lock it in. They gotta check
On
out the park
patrol,
anyway.
yeah.
So on patrol, they can go in there and they can lock the door.
Yeah, that'll keep people out of the restrooms too. Or we can get a time lock.
Yeah, okay, so I think we've had a lot of discussion about things that include and do not include the gates. Anybody want to make a motion for or against? Or to postpone and have further discussion?
I'll make a motion to postpone this to our next meeting for further discussion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
So I got a first from Alderman Coffenaffer and a second from Alderwoman Martinez to postpone the discussion on the addition of a working gate. All those in favor say aye. Say again. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. That unanimous, right? Yeah.
No, no.
Oh, 3-2, that passes 3-1, sorry. I thought you said aye, then no.
No, I said aye.
Oh, okay. I thought you were.
I thought you did too. Yeah, that's unanimous, yeah. Okay,
I didn't for sure you said
Who's gonna
no.
close the park? 10 o'clock.
we'll discuss that. Okay, moving on to 14A, discuss under possible action on invoice received from Everbridge for Nixle engagement. As you see in front of you, you have item 14A from Everbridge. They are the service that sends out text messages to our constituents, to our citizens. I personally never received a text message. I've tried to look at their website, find it, not their website, but their dashboard is rather difficult to navigate. But it's open for discussion.
Is this for continued service?
Correct.
And is this 1 year?
I believe so.
Right
when
there
it
where we get all
started,
the,
in.
Billing date 2/29/2024.
Okay, I'm gonna make an observation. When we started this, well, our peak usage was about 200 people. The last time I looked, I think it was 94. It was under 100 people utilizing its services.
And I've heard complaints that it's too often. That's why we
So,
probably lost half of our users.
well, and I heard the complaints. I don't want weather alerts. But it's part of the package.
Yeah.
Many of the people that signed up for it were not San Diego citizens.
Hmm.
But I don't think Nixle has been a successful experiment for the city. I'm not opposed to texting services, but I don't think this has worked well for us.
Not for $3,000 for 95 people.
But
Is that a motion, sir?
well,
Are there any other questions or concerns?
it's open for discussion, but it can say open for discussion, but my motion is that we not renew the Everbridge contract.
Okay, so I have a motion from,
I'll second that motion.
okay. Still gotta say it.
I know, but
All right, I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Coffendaffer to not renew the Everbridge Nixle invoice. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ryan,
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, did we skip number 13?
Did we skip 13?
We did skip 13.
yes, we did.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Or just pull?
Yeah, I think she stepped out.
She-
She left. Okay, so we're gonna pull agenda item 13A. Do I need a motion?
No.
No, okay. All right, and then lastly, certainly not least, 14B, discuss under possible action regarding resolution number 2023-175, amending policies on work week, work schedule, pay, employee leave, city holidays, and the personnel policy manual. All right. So what you have in front of you is quite a bit of documentation, but in listening to the citizens, they wanted transparency on what our pay rates were for our employee staff. So I came up with pay scales.
Can I? Kind of interrupt. I'd like to postpone this until our next meeting because I've not seen this. And I really don't want to try to review it all sitting here tonight.
Okay,
I agree.
That is a motion to postpone it
Motion
until
to
our next
postpone.
meeting.
I'll check it. This is my favorite one. All right, so,
This one first.
yeah, and now you don't get your Martin Luther King.
Wouldn't matter if it was first done, still have time to review it.
Let's, who was it? Martinez, right? Yeah, okay. So I got a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderwoman Martinez to postpone the review of resolution number 2023-175. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right,
Make a motion that we move forward with item 15.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with item 15. That's one from Alderman Coffendaffer. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And that's a second. Can I get a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 15 is adjournment.
All right, that passed unanimously. The time is unanimously. The time is now 9:04. We are adjourned. Go Cowboys.
I'd like to address the issue to you, sir.
Okay.
There is a sign on the